This is Mother Ulterior. Welcome to my realm. Ladies, I want to ask you a question. What is your sexual standard? Now, I don't mean sex acts. I don't want to know what you're into. This idea that women sit around blabbing about the taste of their hookup's cum or the shape of his nuts is a vulgar bastardization of female friendship invented by shows like Sex and the City. No, what I mean is, what is your general standard for giving it up? I'd venture a guess that it's something fluid, meaning it depends on how you might feel on the day. Maybe you'll sleep with a guy because you like him. Maybe you'll sleep with a guy because you want him to like you. Maybe you'll sleep with a guy because you were drunk and he said you have pretty eyes. Maybe you told yourself you wouldn't sleep with him quickly, but gosh darn it, the moment just felt right. Or maybe you sleep with a guy just because you wanted to catch a dick. It's amusing to me how many feminists I've personally heard talk about men as though they are nothing more than dildos with bodies attached, while simultaneously decrying a similar attitude in men. But modern feminism tends to breed hypocrisy. Now can I tell you what my line in the sand is? Don't laugh. No sex until marriage. Period. The reaction this statement gets is often predictable, always pre-programmed, though women don't realize it. The assumptions are quick and universal. Religious weirdo, prude, sex is beautiful, bodies are beautiful, sex is natural, it's meant to be enjoyed, get with the times. Wow, you're so repressed. This hasn't always been my standard though, and I find it fascinating when insults and assumptions are the first line of defense against anybody challenging the current female or even general attitude towards sex. Something about the freedom to rub genitals anytime you want, with anyone you want, seems to make people really arc up at any mention of abstinence. This is even stranger when one takes into consideration that this current norm is actually the relatively new attitude. Now, most of us have an understanding of the sexual revolution of the 60s as the movement that finally officially loosened all these supposed patriarchal restrictions on female sex. Prior to this, the standard was that sex was to be kept inside a marriage. And while of course human nature means that this was probably not strictly adhered to, it was still the accepted social standard and was, for the most part, at least in appearances, maintained. For lack of a better word, this arrangement tamed the male sexual appetites, because a man was forced to keep it in his pants and to aspire to be worthy of the woman he lusted after. The phrase gentleman is interesting because the connotations, a gentle man, is that in the presence of a woman, a man becomes something other than a coarse brute. He is gentler. Men sought to earn a woman's respect and trust without the possibility of an illicit bonk. Sex was sacred, and women were the gatekeepers to this sacred act. A man used to have to prove himself worthy of a lifetime commitment and dedication to the woman to have to get it, so to speak. Today, sometimes all a man has to do is be at the right place, at the right time, after the right amount of tequila shots. Essentially, what has really happened in this complete 180 in sexual attitudes is that the restrictions and requirements for men to get laid were completely removed by manipulating women into thinking somehow they were the ones being restrained. All it took to turn women en masse into willing sexual encounters for any man that might try to have her was to tell her that the restriction had been placed on her, that to hold men to our standard, to earn us, that was patriarchal and that was oppression. Now I understand that some might be thinking, so what? Marriage itself at this point is outdated. Marriage is no longer a goal of dating. That somehow this means that the idea of a woman saving physical intimacy for a companion that has dedicated himself to her is futile or pointless or even hilarious. Marriage has become a very dirty word, at least for the straights. Isn't that weird? And yet, people still get married. People that said they'd never get married. I have seen it myself in women I never would have expected to give up the glam life for a man and a baby. Whether or not it lasts is another story. But this generic cookie-cutter scornfulness and disdain for marriage seems to be only skin deep. At least that's what I find when I make any kind of intimate conversation with my dear friends and from what I've seen happen around me. In fact, the things that I've learned over the last few years tend to blow all of this strong, independent woman bravado right out of the water. We are so soft with each other, with our girlfriends. We know we are. We nurture. We care. We emotionally invest. We are tender. And perhaps most significantly of all is we are unashamed to admit we need our female friends. We are open about how much we need the feminine in our life. Why then is it so shameful to admit to needing the masculine in our life? If a woman could find a man, strong, loyal, dedicated, loving only her, a rock to lean on and build a home with, I genuinely believe that if we could find all of this, we would take it. And I dare any woman who takes umbrage with this to deny it, at least within herself. Hell, you can say you deny it. We all know what the reality would be if a good man, a solid, dependable man that you were attracted to came along. You would desire companionship with him. Is this one of our most well-kept secrets? Why do we behave as though the group, the general consensus, has decided that marriage is oppressive and dead, and that free and easy sex and never catching feelings is the only way to live? A common reaction to suggestions of chastity or even just modesty is that somehow it will only end in a woman's hard-earned freedoms being taken away. Don't you value the freedom to go out, get maggot, and maybe suck someone's sweaty, unwashed cock in a toilet stall? Can't you taste the freedom? Only a total bigot would say that isn't empowering. Fuck marriage. Too much work for the boys anyway, right? Sexual norms can be tampered with and altered in a way that benefits predators. But the desires of a woman and how she feels about herself can only be manipulated so far. But anyway, back to my original point, back to my standard, my line in the sand. Another response I often see to talk about abstinence or chastity is that it's unrealistic, that it's too much to ask or expect that people are in command of their baser urges. Do you think it's unrealistic? And why do you think it would be unrealistic? Say you met someone and you hit it off. There's chemistry. If you were to attempt chastity, to elevate yourself to a status above sentient fleshlight in the eyes of this man, would you personally find it hard? Or is there a more subconscious instinct driving your desire to have him? That perhaps if you don't, someone else will. That if you don't fuck him, someone else in this so-called sisterhood will. The implication of this would be that a woman has already given up on the idea that her mind and her character is sufficient to not just attract a man, but to reel him in even deeper. A sharp mind and a warm personality and a nice smile is no longer all a woman need rely on to navigate and interest potential partners. Now access to her very body itself has to come into play. Given that we are the gatekeepers, why is it controversial for me to suggest that perhaps we can stop playing our most valuable card and take our bodies off this gambling table? Are you beginning to see now how we ourselves perpetuate this cycle? None of what I've said excuses the role men can play in this dynamic, of course. The existence of prostate cancer doesn't mean breast cancer isn't real. And likewise, the existence of male issues should not get in the way of addressing toxic female behavior. I'm not going to talk about men and their attitudes to sex, which are also often shaped by the most brutal, disgusting porn you can imagine, because there doesn't need to be yet another woman out there pointing a big judgy finger at the boys. Women's attitudes to sex has been jointly responsible for the complete breakdown in sexual relations between the sexes. We have aided in the total devaluation of sex when we essentially flooded the market with what was once a rare commodity. What we allow becomes the sexual norms of the day and will play a significant role in how men view us. For all this talk about being strong and independent, what I've found is, as a group, women are loath to admit any responsibility for our role in establishing this status quo that hurts us all, choosing instead to look to the past and posthumously award to our ancestors the attitudes we invoke today as the reason modern men are so toxic. We, the women, played our part in this cheapening of sex and the ruination of meaningful relationships. We have given men the understanding that sex is only a swipe or a compliment away. We have lowered ourselves to fuck like men instead of owning that we should make love like women. So why are we still pretending that this current sexual status quo empowers us? By viewing sex as something we give up depending on whether we're in the mood for it or not, we have trained men into seeing us as simply an option to fuck. Or did they train us? We can rant at them to respect and value us. But if we are behaving in a manner that treats our own bodies and theirs as a masturbatory aid, is it any wonder now that it seems a truly meaningful relationship grounded in mutual trust, love, and respect is almost impossible to find? Can we finally have some fucking honesty about the way casual sex has made us feel afterwards? Can we finally tell the truth about what we really want in life? And that is to feel loved and cherished and understood. You know, if you're listening to this and it makes you mad because you see your body as a sperm sample receptacle, then you do you. I'm speaking now to the women who never considered chastity or holding out as a viable life choice because they think it's unrealistic or prudish. Many women never even have this alternative, and actually have never thought that there might be another way to try and protect themselves from unworthy men and a lot of heartache. I finally had to decide this for myself. No more. No more would a man have access to physical intimacy with me unless he proved himself by earning my hand in marriage. I vowed it to myself, and I made this vow regardless of what it might mean for my chances dating in this modern world. I will let you in on the fact that I have been in a relationship now with someone, actually engaged to be married, who I informed very early on of my vow, and we have so far together managed to keep this vow. The idea that a man will just flat out not want you or won't agree to such an agreement isn't reality. Of course some men won't. If a man is unwilling to earn you sexually by investing in you every other way first, then you might want to ask yourself what he ultimately wants from you in the first place. But if a good man is given the time to fall for who you are as a woman, you will have him for life anyway. Out of every relationship you might have had, how many began with sex, or was built with sex, and where has it gotten you? We are the gatekeepers of sex, and we have thrown open that gate so wide that anyone, anytime can come through and treat us or our sisters like cum dumpsters. Sometimes the truth hurts, and one of the reasons why the female feedback loop has become so toxic is because it shuts down any conversation that might be painful, while everything else around us tells us to have sex, that it's empowerment and freedom to sleep with whoever you want. Media, movies, magazines, TV shows, music, all of it is bombarding us with the message that our power is between our legs. But none of it will tell you what happens when you don't respect this power and hold it precious. Nobody writes ballads about getting forcefully anally fucked by a guy you picked up at the bar because he was cute. And these are the kind of stories that women tell about their empowered sexual encounters. There are consequences, and the worst part is I know that women know this. I know that women feel used when we have sex with a man that does not invest in us. I know that we feel insecure if a man that we've slept with is being flirted with by another woman that we know will fuck him. Can we just stop pretending that we are sexually equal to men? We are different. If we want to turn the tide and once again turn men into gentlemen who see our respect and our trust and our bodies as something they have to earn, then we have to begin by admitting the truth about what we want in life and the consequences of the ways we've been trying to get it. If a man can't have you, yes, he might try and get it from someone else. But if the other woman has also decided that she isn't a sexual vending machine, the cycle will at least begin to weaken. Women, be better. If you really believe that your character, your mind, your personality is worthy. Treat your body the same. Sex is a sacred act. And this is self-evident by the way every decent human being is repulsed and horrified by rape. If sex is meaningless, then rape would be seen as a physical crime equal to being beaten up, and it isn't. There is something instinctual within us that understands the deep violation of something sacred when sex is taken by force. How then can we justify simplifying the act down to a simple rubbing of genitals between two consenting adults? And one last thing. The try before you buy argument? Gotta take the car out for a test drive before you commit? Only a truly consumerist society would compare people to a product for sale. And anyway, what happens to the value of a car after it's racked up a fair amount of miles? People are not cars. And sex is not just a physical act. This is Mother Ulterior. Have a blessed day.